I think it's been long enough. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Whatcast.
Hey, everybody. So...
yeah, Mike pointed out that we replaced Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Whatcast with so. And it's true.
It is true. So we're trying not to start with either, but instead today we started with both. just for kicks. Just for old-timey sake.
Yeah. So this week, we were lucky enough to be joined by our friend, Miss Jen Place.
It's true.
Miss Jen Place is an author. She just wrote a book, or just published a book, called Building 51.
Not to be confused with the area, because this is not about aliens.
Oh, what a cool Easter egg. I wonder if she did that on purpose. Shit, we were just talking to her and I didn't fucking ask.
Why didn't we ask? No, I think the Building 51, I think that was its designation in, I don't know. Like on a map or something, it was its designation. Something like that, I don't know.
Look at us get sidetracked during the intro even.
I know.
It's going to be a long night, guys.
It is. Or day, depending on when you're listening. Either way, you should be used to it by now. We're ramblers. You know, maybe we should insert some fucking Allman Brothers in here.
Then we'll get pulled or flagged or something.
We will.
With the way things are
Allman
going now.
Brothers will monetize our video on YouTube. When this gets uploaded to YouTube, they'll be like, nope, you guys used the chorus for Ramblin' Man, and now we get to make millions of dollars off of your videos. And we'll be like, the joke's on you. You won't even make sense. Ha ha, in your face.
Yeah. Good luck making millions with our 2 views, you sons of bitches.
Speaking of which, we have a YouTube channel up. All our shows get uploaded to YouTube. If you could go to YouTube and subscribe to us and push the bell and the thumbs up and all the things, you'd be helping us out a lot, and it would be awesome. Just make sure it's not a video with the Allman Brothers in it, because we don't want them to make a fucking dime off of us.
Yeah, we used to have our shows up there, but we took them all down because they kept flagging us for the music that we made.
Yeah, this was back in the day when Mateo would make a new theme song for every show. And apparently somebody was like, hey, that theme song that you created for your show is really my song that I created, ? And when challenged, we basically got lulz, and that was it.
Yeah, they said they won't take the videos down anymore. They don't take your video down. They just let other people monetize it. And we weren't monetizing the video at all. Yeah. They were just saying that they are going to, and I was like, well, if they do, I'll fucking sue you because I made that music, you twat. And they didn't care. YouTube didn't give a shit.
Yeah. So now we've got the set thing. So now all our shows are going back to YouTube. At some point here, I want to start doing original content again. In the past, we put out a show or two that was YouTube exclusive, but those got taken down for the same reason. And we still have all of our SCP videos up. So for any new listeners that weren't around when we were doing that, we did these SCP readings where we would read a log of like some weird creature contained by the SCP Foundation, or we would recreate interviews and do all manner of voices and sound effects and things of that nature. And we've got a bunch of those up. There's a ton.
There's like over 50 of them.
Did we do that many?
Yeah, I was looking at, since we've been putting the shows on there now, I was looking at our YouTube channel. There's a fucking ton of those. We got to start doing those again too.
Yeah, those were fun. So definitely check that out. Check out our YouTube channel. We are the Whatcast on YouTube as well. We haven't changed our name. All our shows are up there. You know, do the like, comment, subscribe, thumbs up thing. I think thumbs up is like, so I think I'm just being redundant. And just go there and do the stuff that you do on YouTube and help support our channel. And the more support we get, the more stuff we'll put out. If we think you guys are paying attention to the channel, we'll give it more love and attention and care, and do more exclusive content for the channel while still putting out this show every week. Maybe we've had some people talk to us recently about the Nerd Alert monthlies that we used to do. So maybe we'll bring those back as a YouTube thing, rather than putting them on the regular feed for the people that don't like it. But if send us your feedback, guys. Let us know what you would like to see on our YouTube channel that we can't put on the podcast, or as an addition to the podcast, or just the stuff that you would be interested in seeing us do. And we'll take your feedback and run with it. We'll use that to kind of shape the way that we're going to develop the channel going forward.
Since this intro is not long enough, back to the actual intro.
Oh yeah, we're introing a show. This isn't just about us. Damn it.
We're chatty tonight.
What a bunch of selfish pricks. We're just prattling on here.
I think we said bye to Jen like 3 times, and then we just kept talking. She was easy to talk to and a great guest. But back to that, her book's based around this really creepy, dilapidated, frozen in time, abandoned mental hospital that's around where she lives, and she goes into a lot of the history about that place and just how they treated people back then in those places in general. And it's a fun talk and just very interesting. And you guys, we'll put the links for her book and her social media so you can say hi to her in the show notes. And
we'll post some pictures of the site as well so you can see what the actual building looks like. And, it'll help you when you're reading her book and you can be like, oh, this is that place right there. I remember seeing the picture of that on the Whatcasters website. And then you can be like, oh, that's a horrific thing that happened right there where that picture is. And you'll have the picture there, and then you'll have the description in the book, and then you can put the two together, and you'll be like, oh my God, it's real.
Yeah.
Because maybe it is. But anyway, on with the show.
So, Jen, how long have you been writing? I didn't catch any hint of you being a writer, and all of a sudden, boom, there's a book. I was like, holy cow.
It's because I get weirded out about talking about it.
And now we're gonna.
and now we're going to. I've been writing for a long time. I think, like, I started writing my first book that will, God willing, never be published because it's terrible, when I was in high school. Which was like the cheesiest, like Lost Boys ripoff vampire novel, and it's embarrassing to even admit. But I think I was like 17 when I started writing that, and then threw that in the trash. And my first book that I published was published 8 years ago, and I think I started writing that one in my early 20s, and it took me 8 years to get published the first time. So the new one is my 4th book, but it's the first horror that I've ever written. The first ones were kind of, I don't know, like the first one's kind of like a chick lit almost. And then I had written one that's like, it's a collection of letters that I wrote to my son. And then the third one is historical fiction.
Nice. What made you want to go the horror route?
Well, I've always really liked horror. My dad started me reading Stephen King and Dean Koontz and Peter Straub when I was probably too young to read them. So like, I've always liked ghost stories and vampire stories and stuff like that. And I always wanted to write one. But it's writing horror, because it's such a subjective thing. What scares one person isn't going to necessarily scare somebody else. So it's kind of intimidating to take on. But, with this one, the mental hospital that it's based on, I mean, I've been driving past that since I was little. It's on the border of the town I grew up in and that my family's from. And I didn't really know too much about it other than it was a closed mental asylum. And just kind of found it interesting and wanted to look into it. And when I had mentioned to my dad that I was looking into it, he told me, well, my grandfather worked there, my grandmother worked there, and my step grandfather worked there. And, like all my, my favorite was my dad and my godfather used to like play baseball on the grounds. And my godfather, I think, shot paintball guns at patients that were wandering around the grounds.
Wow.
Yeah, not the best teenage decisions ever, but so it's a really interesting place with like it was open for 140 years, so it has all this history, and the more I looked into it, the more interesting it was, and it's just kind of the perfect setting to put a ghost story there.
I had the pleasure of reading the book, and I actually just finished it last week, I think. But I thought you pulled off, like, it didn't seem like your first horror novel. It really seemed like you knew what the hell you were doing.
Well, that's good, because I had no idea what I was doing. I was winging it the whole way. Mateo,
I really liked the way it flowed, and it just really, it played out like a movie. It was really fun the whole way through. And I know it's weird to say fun for a horror movie because terrible, horrible things are going on, but it was engaging. It really sucked me in, and I thought it was great.
Well, thank you. Like that's a huge compliment to me. I wasn't sure how it would go. I had tried to find, after I finished it, I had tried to find different representation. Like I wanted to go with an agent and try and find a different publisher than I had used in the past, because it's such a small publishing house and there's such a small, budget for marketing, and a lot of the marketing and promotion I do myself. And I didn't want to do that because I get really squeamish about it. And one of the pieces of feedback that I had gotten from an agent was that it wasn't long enough, and looking at it now, and especially since now I'm working on the whole screenplay thing, like I feel like there's enough going on. Like I feel like I don't need to pad it out by 600 pages and, describe like an Anne Rice thing and describe wallpaper for 9 pages. I didn't feel like I needed to do that.
No. And I think for a lot of really effective horror stories, you don't need that, because I think when you get into all those like super detailed descriptions, it takes you out of the moment.
Yeah. Like I didn't, I didn't want the characters to be hollow and for nobody to give a shit about them. But at the same time, like I didn't want it to be 900 pages and like 50 of them were where things were actually happening.
Right. Yeah, so I appreciate
I'm glad
that.
It worked out. I'm glad flying by the seat of my pants did okay.
Hey man, sometimes you just gotta follow your muse,
Yeah, exactly.
How cool is it that you checked out or drove by this creepy place and then find out you had family members that worked there? That's like every creepy kid's dream.
Yeah. It was really weird. I had, when I was trying to figure out a way, because the site is closed, obviously, most of the buildings are falling down. They're trying to reuse some of the site to build like some retail space, and they want to turn the main building from the hospital into a boutique hotel. So, the only way you can get in is to break in, and I am not down with getting arrested as a full-grown adult for trespassing. So when I was trying to figure out a way to kind of do more research, my grandfather is the fire commissioner in the next town over, and he kind of worked his contacts to get me a tour through the grounds. So I didn't get to go in any of the buildings, but I did get to drive around and see all of the main buildings and the old staff housing and all that stuff. And it's creepy as hell in the daytime. Small museum dedicated to the hospital. And so I went there. Aaron and I went with my dad and my son, and we did a tour of the museum. And the women, it's run by the alumni of the nursing school that they had there at the hospital. The nursing school opened pretty much right after the hospital did in the 1800s. So they have, a huge, obviously most of those people are dead now, but they're not doing hospital or museum tours. But the women that were running the tour for us actually worked with my grandfather. My grandfather died in 1967, so I never met him. He was dead long before I was born. But they went through some of the photographs that they had there for the museum, and they pulled out the graduation photo from when my grandfather graduated nursing school, and like pictures of him from parties and stuff that they had. And they were pictures that my father had never seen of his father. So it was really cool to get to do that.
Yeah, the pictures that you sent us, I mean, they're taken in daytime and it's just creepy looking.
Yeah. The fact that when the state started to close the buildings down, you would think, given, how money is always tight in budgets and things like that, that they would have, found other hospitals or, offices or whatever that could have reused some of the equipment. And they didn't. They left everything there. There's furniture there, books, patient records, which are now like all over the floor in some of the buildings, old x-rays, which are actually a hazard. So everything is just there. The one picture that I sent you guys, there's just all of this equipment that's outside the building, and you can see through the doorway. It's just stuffed with stuff that's just sitting there and rotting, which makes it creepier.
Yeah, it does. From the pictures you sent me, I've seen a lot of like dilapidated abandoned places like that when people do ghost hunting investigations or whatever. But seeing the pictures that you sent us was one of the first times I had to say, why don't they clean that shit up?
Yeah, they clean none of it up, and there's huge issues with squatters. People that break in and they will just live in a building, and they'll pick up and move to another part of the building, to another building, and they leave stuff behind. They've had a lot of fires. Some of the buildings have been destroyed because of purposely set fires. From just random idiots that break in and want to set some shit on fire. Or, squatters that have accidentally started fires there too. So, yeah, I mean, there's hazards there on so many levels between, floors falling in on themselves, the x-ray stuff, the equipment that's there. It's a huge, huge mess. And it's like a couple 100 acres. It's a massive site. I mean, you guys aren't familiar with the area, but I mean, it goes like down to the Hudson River. So it's hundreds of acres. They used to have a yacht club. I don't know why you need a yacht club for a mental hospital, but they had one. They had their own like railroad stop. And it's just huge. So trying to patrol that and keep people out, when I went there to do the tour, I went with the fire chief, and he had just been there, I think 2 days before he and I went. And over the course of the weekend, they had like building facades there that they were going to start putting on one of the buildings they're going to reuse. And some enterprising youths had broken in over the weekend and spray painted swastikas on the brand new building facades. So,
jeez.
Yeah, I guess, upstate New York, people get bored, and I guess that's what you do. It's never been my thing, but, I guess it's, it's a problem that they have a lot with people breaking in despite the fencing and the patrols there.
Mike, defend your people. What are you guys doing?
Hey, man, they're like 3 hours south of me. They're not my people.
Yeah, no, we're barely upstate. There's upstate. Yeah, there's upstate, and then there's upstate.
Yeah,
we're like
I'm
barely
like
above Westchester.
I'm like north of the wall, upstate.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, after the pictures you sent me today, Mike, I'm sure that people up there can get bored enough to do that. I think I would.
Yeah.
Fuck that, man. When it gets like that, I'm just staying in my house. I don't even want to shovel. That's brutal weather, man.
Yeah.
No, thank you. But all that being said, we're probably way more like up here. It should be a separate state. Like we should be a red state up here. Just conservative, gun-toting hick assholes everywhere.
Oh no. We got those here too.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. There's a. Have you guys ever seen Blazing? You've seen Blazing Saddles, right?
Oh yeah.
You know the one guy that you can't understand anything he says, Gabby Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a guy who lives around the corner from me, and I see him at the post office all the time. He looks just like him and has a Confederate flag bumper sticker and spare tire cover on his truck.
See, what the fuck are you doing in New York State with a Confederate flag? You do realize at no point in the Civil War was anyone in New York part of the Union or the Confederate Army. Like, what the fuck? You're just an asshole. At that point, it's not Southern pride. You're just like, yeah, I'm a racist prick.
Exactly. And there's another guy who lives up the street from us, like a mile away. They have, it's the stereotypical like militia house where their entire yard is just full of shit and broken down cars and pallets. They have a sign in their window that the premises are under video surveillance.
Oh, don't raffle through my shit.
They have a Confederate flag hanging from the front porch.
Do they also have the "Don't tread on me"?
They do.
Yes.
Ooh, good call, Mike.
Perfect.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. Maybe they are the same people.
Exactly. At least they're probably related. So we might be 3 hours apart, but we're not that far removed.
Yeah. Thank God for people like us.
Yeah, exactly. The tiny blue dots in the red, the red pond or whatever they are.
I'm just making a little bit of purple.
Exactly.
That's all I'm doing.
It's why I will never put a political sign on my yard.
No.
No, because then they'll burn my house down.
I won't even hang the American flag. I've got a Jolly Roger, and I want to get a flag that just has the world on it.
That's a good idea.
Like fucking Invader Zim.
Yeah, there's like two things that are common around here. It's the Confederate flag and truck nuts, and that's just
truck nuts. Oh my God. Mateo, do they have truck nuts out there?
They're like very seldom. Very few, far and few between.
You're missing
They're
out.
so goddamn stupid. Oh my God. What a bunch of fucking hicks.
Yep. Well, I mean, and we're surrounded by apple orchards, and the road we live on, we're like right on a corner, and apparently every jackass that has a lifted pickup truck decides that he's going to live his life a quarter mile at a time when he turns down our road. So it's like they just gun it at any hour. So it's just like manly exhaust all the time that rattles the windows in my old ass house.
Well, they just want to let you know that they've got huge, massive dicks. And that's they just want you to know that. And that's the only way that they can convey that to the rest of the world.
Every time it happens, Aaron will just look at me on the couch and he'll just show me his pinky.
Oh, perfect.
That guy paints.
Yeah.
Crochets.
He's wearing a women thong as he rides, bisecting his little marble balls.
Probably while wearing a T-shirt that says "These colors don't run."
Yeah, exactly. Backwards John Deere cap.
Yep.
Oh God, I
A
hate
lot of
that
Ted
guy
Nugent
so much.
fans.
So this
I think
hospital's
we,
this hospital.
But anyway,
I think we got off topic.
So this we that's okay. It's gonna happen again.
That's fine.
So this hospital is a big part of your book. Can you give us a little history on this hospital? I mean,
I can. So, the Hudson River State Hospital. It was part of this idea of treating mental illness in the 1800s called moral treatment, and a lot of it was developed by this guy named Thomas Story Kirkbride, and his grand plan for treating the mentally ill was to expose them to a lot of sunlight and give them like beautiful scenery that would cure them, which not the best plan, I think, but but certainly a step up from how they were treating the mentally ill before that, which was basically throwing them in shackles and keeping them in cells all the time. So it kind of started out with good intentions, and it very quickly went south. There was, there's so many things wrong, and there's so many things that are horrific about how treating the mentally ill started out during that time frame. Kind of anything could get you committed to a mental hospital. It could be, you could legitimately be depressed or be schizophrenic or have a mental issue. A lot of the people that got committed were women. And I actually just started reading a book tonight that's called Women in the Asylum, and it's firsthand accounts of women that were kept in mental hospitals between the 1840s and 1945.
whoa, that has to be fascinating.
It really is. Like, I literally just started it tonight, and I'm maybe 100 pages in, and the abuses that went on and the reasons why people were committed is really shocking. Husbands that if they thought that their wives were a little too uppity, they could put them in a mental institution. And for you to get out of a mental institution was next to impossible. There was one woman that I read about in the book tonight that this was in the 1840s, and she was 32 and unmarried and sold a piece of furniture that she didn't have any use for. And her father got pissed off about it. And so he was friends with a judge, and they committed her to a mental institution. And she was there for 28 years.
Oh,
All because she had the audacity to sell a piece of furniture.
wow.
Yeah. So, if somebody, a lot of the elderly that families didn't want to take care of anymore, they would be committed and they would spend the rest of their lives there. So it's kind of the opposite of how it is now. It's next to impossible to get into a mental facility now. Back then, it was the easiest thing you could do, and it was next to impossible to get out. So we've kind of reversed that now. The other thing, too, was because it was so easy to commit people, the population got out of hand really quickly. Hudson River, they kept building additional buildings, additional wings. And I think in the 50s so the hospital, I think, was originally built to accommodate 400 patients. Their peak population before the start of using Thorazine to treat mental illness, that was 1957. So just before that, their population was 6,000 patients.
Oh God, 400 sounds like it's too much.
Yeah, it was, and it got to the point where patients were sleeping on the floor. There weren't enough beds. There was a big problem in Hudson River in the 40s during World War II. Because there were so many people or so many men that were off fighting the war, they had a staffing shortage. So what they did here was they ended up employing conscientious objectors, which were primarily Quakers and Mennonites, to work as ward attendants in the hospital. And those conscientious objectors uncovered a lot of abuse going on between the staff abusing the patients. And it ended up, they told their superiors at the hospital that this was going on, and it ended up, I think, four attendants were fired. There was a big to-do in the newspaper about it, and there were investigations into the treatment of the patients by the staff. One of the newspaper articles that I had found, I think it was like 1900, one of the attendants beat a patient to death. And because the only witness to the death was another patient, they brought no charges against the attendant.
Oh, wow. I can see them getting away with not convicting him, but no charges.
Yeah, because the only witness was a mental patient, so they were not at all credible. So that attendant got away with murder.
Wow. What does he know? He's a cuckoo bird. He can see shit.
Exactly. I don't know if that was the legal term that they employed.
Back then it could have been.
But yeah, that's true. It could have been. So that was one of them. I think I had mentioned this, my favorite story there. I think I had mentioned to Mike that in the early 1900s, there was a guy who would wander off of the grounds of the hospital every day. He would sneak out of the hospital grounds, and he would go to work as a bartender all day long. And then he would sneak back onto the hospital grounds at night. And he did this for several years before they figured out that he was doing it.
Wow. Well, how mentally ill do you have to be to go and get yourself a job? See,
Exactly. And I'm guessing security was kind of lax if they were just missing that this guy, was just wandering away. And there were quite a few people that wandered off. They thought it was a good idea to take them on field trips. In the early 1900s, they would take them to the movies. There was a movie theater in the city of Poughkeepsie, which, it's, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes away from where the hospital is. And they had, on more than one occasion, a patient would get away from the group and threw themselves off the top of buildings.
Whoa.
Yeah. There were 2 women who formed a suicide pact, and they snuck off the grounds and drowned themselves. I don't remember if it was in the river or in a creek, but, they had done that. In the 80s, there was a patient who was admitted who had shown no signs of suicidal behavior. I think he had been checked in there for depression, and they left him alone in his room, and he asphyxiated himself, and his parents brought a huge lawsuit against the hospital. There were always, people committing suicide, people, running away. I mean, I remember growing up, we used to get alerts if patients escaped from the hospital. So that was kind of a scary thing to grow up with. Like, but you better, I lived in the middle of the country, so it's like, but you better lock your doors tonight because there's some rando crazy person that got out of the mental hospital. And
yeah, I don't feel bad for them getting shot with paintballs now. I would have shot him too, and I would have been like, them spiders, fucking aliens.
There was one article that I found, and I was trying to find out more information on him. That so this guy was incarcerated there in the 70s, and he He ended up in the Hudson River State Hospital after he had murdered his wife. And he married his wife while he was in prison in another state for murder, and he had served 24 years for murder. Then he got out, he killed her, and turned himself in the next day and told the police that he was tired of running. He hadn't been running anywhere. And after he was arrested, he admitted to killing like 20 other people.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I think they got him. Like, I think he actually did kill 3 people, but this guy couldn't stop talking. He wanted to talk to the media. He wanted to tell everybody everything. And his lawyer basically put a gag order on him that he wasn't allowed to talk to anyone. And in this one interview that he did, there was a bird that like flew by him while he was talking to the reporter. And he was telling the reporter that the bird was talking to him. Like, this guy, so you don't know if he actually killed 20 people or if he was just completely batshit crazy.
Wow.
So he was fun. I'm like, oh, really? There's a serial killer that I haven't heard of that was, here? And no, I don't think so. I think he was just nuts.
Yeah. See, cuckoo bird. There you go.
Exactly. He was talking to a cuckoo bird. But I mean, there's just, I think there's spooky shit in everybody's backyard. And the spooky shit in my backyard just really fascinates me. Like here you had patients killing other patients. You had staff killing the patients. You had staff members that like ran away together and were never heard from again. It's also apparently a dumping site for bodies. There was a woman murdered a couple years ago, and they dumped her body there on the hospital grounds because they didn't think anyone would find her. And yeah, it's just an all around spooky kind of place.
Yeah, in the pictures it looks like a blown up Wayne Manor. It's huge.
Yeah, it's
blown up Wayne Manor.
If Batman really let it go to shit, yes.
When he was having his bout of depression, he's just like, no, fuck it all.
He was in his blue period. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and that's only one building. There were over 100 buildings. I mean, and the early ones all looked like that and had that kind of architecture. And then, as the years went on, like they built a recreation center, which is ugly as shit and is just like this huge concrete monstrosity. So you have, these old, the architect who designed the original buildings is the same architect firm that designed Central Park. So they use a reputable firm, and the work on the buildings is gorgeous. Obviously now it looks like shit, but it's really sad to see what state it's in now. The one of the other buildings, which was Ryan Hall, which was where they kept the more violent patients, that one it's in the same kind of style as the main building is, and it's just it's covered in graffiti. The windows are all covered up, and it's sad to see, these like really grand buildings just looking like utter garbage. And especially the ones where they've had the fires. So you have like a side of the brick has completely fallen in. So you can see into the building where the floors have collapsed on themselves. And there was one picture that I had found where there's like this huge radiator that is just hanging by a prayer over, it's on like the 3rd floor. So if some idiot walks through there, that's going to, basically turn him into strawberry jelly.
Oh boy.
He's going to have a bad day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just, there's a lot of history there. And, when I first thought about like, oh, that would be kind of a neat place to put a ghost story, And then I started doing research. I have so much useless knowledge now about all of the shit that we did to crazy people. You know, like the one other picture that I had sent of the tranquilizing chair.
Yeah, I loved how it had a little poo-poo hole. It was awesome.
It's got a nice little porcelain bowl, so you can use that as a toilet while you have a wooden box over your head and your arms and legs are strapped to it. And it's the room that it's in. It's, you know, that takes up like the whole corner of the room. And then you have like the old style straitjackets right next to it. And they had this other thing. They didn't use this at Hudson River. They used it up at the mental hospital in Utica. It's called a Utica crib. And basically what it is a giant grown-up sized crib that they would suspend, and they would put like agitated patients in there and swing it back and forth, because apparently if they treat you like an infant, that will fix you.
Whoa.
Yeah. Like the women that did the tour, they're like, we don't even know why this is here. They never used these here, but you know, but it's a nice addition, and it's, you know, it's a discussion piece, I guess. But it's just like the things that they did to people. It just, you know, strapping them in a chair and putting a box over your head, you know, having somebody, the hydrotherapy stuff where you live in a bathtub for up to a month. Like,
yeah, that's crazy.
who would think that would work?
Yeah. And
Nothing good.
You know what's funny about that? When in the book, one of the characters thinks about that in his head about how they would even go to the bathroom when they were in there. And that's not anything I had even considered, but as soon as he said, I'm like, wow. How did they just let them soak in their own filth?
And the character said that because I was wondering, like, what do you do? Because I mean, who doesn't like to take a bath and relax every once in a while? But that's like max an hour until the water is too cold and you turn into a prune, and then you get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
But having to stay in there for a month, and they would eat while they were in there. They would feed them their meals while they were in a friggin' bathtub.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's no part of that is good. It's just a terrible idea.
Yeah, so if they're eating there, we definitely know they drop deuces in there. And I don't care how crazy you are, I bet you they cringe. Every single person who did it cringed for 1 second, no matter how nuts. They're just like, no.
I hope like hell they bleached them when they switched patients out, but you don't know. You have no idea. You know, like my other favorite thing was, you know, they treated the patients, they used them basically for slave labor, and they would, you know, they worked on the farm, you know, under the guise of, oh, well, this will help them. Not really. You have a working farm and you have unpaid workers to do it. So they did that, and they had a shoe factory in there, and they would make rugs and creepy ass dolls. And they would also do like road work and stuff. So, you know, thinking about like hundreds of acres of buildings, you have roads that go between every building, and those have to be maintained. And they used patients to do that until like the local unions caught wind of it and said, oh no, what the hell are you doing? Like, we're missing out on work, and you're using crazy people and paying them nothing to maintain the road. So they got in a lot of trouble for that too. It's just, you know, they're not slaves. Like, maybe you don't do that.
Maybe that's not a good idea.
No.
I wonder how late they did that till.
I don't even remember. I could look it up, but that would take too long.
Yeah, that's all right.
Sorry, my knowledge has failed.
Oh no, I studying for some shows that if it's something we're super stoked on, we'll just read so much shit we'll just start to forget it.
Yeah, information overload.
Yeah,
exactly.
See, we're not stoners, guys. It's just that there's too much information. That's what it is.
Exactly. You can't cram it all in there at once.
Mental exhaustion.
That's the ticket. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh wait, and there was my other favorite patient story was I can't remember her name. Her name was something Shane. She was a relatively unknown actress. When was this? Oh, in 1920. So this kind of famous starlet who had a famous family. So she was put into the hospital for depression, and she ended up dying in the hospital after. So they thought she had pancreatitis. So they performed surgery, and she didn't. Well, maybe she did have pancreatitis, but it was brought on because she had swallowed 2 9-inch knives and 3 spoons.
Oh,
What?
how do you even do
Two.
that?
I don't know. I have no idea.
9-inch knives.
Yeah. And when they took them out,
Wow.
they had the name of the hospital. I guess the name of the hospital was engraved on their silverware, and that's what was on the silverware that was in her system. And she had swallowed them 2 months prior.
Wow.
Oh,
I don't even know how you would do that.
yeah. You'd think they'd start to
You'd think,
rest somehow.
or
Yeah,
even like sitting down or bending over, that you might get stabbed internally.
exactly. Like, I don't like, all right, maybe if you were a sword swallower, you could get them down initially, but there's kind of bends and
Yeah, she had to work at that.
exactly. I don't know if she doused him in Vaseline first. I don't know how that would have worked, but I read that when I was like, how the hell does that even happen? And it's not like I didn't go off like some stupid ass website or whatever. Like, this is, our local newspaper, like actual news articles from the 20s and, in the early 1900s. So I know it's not, just random internet hoax bullshit, but it blows my mind that somebody swallowed silverware and it hung around. She was okay for 2 months until it killed her.
Damn.
So yeah, it's just random weird shit.
How much of this stuff from your research made its way into the book, and how much of it was stuff that you made up? Because I noticed in the pictures you sent there was a really spooky wheelchair.
Yeah, that picture, that I did use that kind of as inspiration for a part in the book. I kind of try to take a lot of realism and kind of build off of that. So, I try to work in a lot of the history of the place without making it into a textbook, and kind of build off of real events. So, obviously the hydrotherapy stuff that actually went on there. Somebody left a wheelchair for whatever reason. I'm guessing somebody threw the wheelchair into the pool. There was another thing too, and my mind is blanking on it at the moment. Like I used Ryan Hall as the scene of parts of the book. That's the building that my grandfather worked in. So I kind of tried to put an homage in there. I do like to take actual truthful stuff. I think there's one part, it's a small, like, in passing, where somebody's reading a patient record that they found in one of the offices. And I think the patient's name was Annette. And when I was doing research, there are patient records, like you can see photos of some of them online that different people have broken in and taken pictures and posted them. And the woman's name was Annette Place. She's not related to me.
Whoa.
But I thought that was really neat. I'm like, oh, look at well, she's got to be in there. I mean, I don't think she's related to me, but that's my name. I'm gonna throw that in there for her, and just thought that was kind of a neat thing.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think my family was only employed there. I don't think any of us were patients, but I could be wrong.
Maybe it was a distant cousin.
Yeah, she could have been a sassy cousin.
That could absolutely be. Um, but yeah, it's like the book I wrote before this one, the historical fiction one. So that one is it's a little bit of a ghost story, but it's just more of a historical fiction thing than it is horror. That one is also set locally, like in the next kind of the same town as the hospital, but kind of the next, like the hospital is on the border of two towns. It borders Hyde Park and it borders Poughkeepsie. And in Hyde Park, there is a Vanderbilt mansion that, I've gone there since I was little, and it's one of my favorite places. So that mansion inspired my previous book. So I kind of like taking stuff that's local and kind of building off of that, and keeping some of the, the truth and the history there, and building off of it and building a story off of it. So I tried to do the same thing with this one.
That's awesome.
That was rambly. Sorry.
Oh, no.
No, the show is built on rambles.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
No, I believe most people have some type of intuition when it comes to, I don't know, just ghosts, I guess. Did you get any creepy feels when you're visiting that place on that tour?
It was more, it wasn't so much that I thought, I was going to see like a shadow person or anything moving around in the windows or anything like that. But there is this very palpable feeling of just sadness there. So many people died there over the years. I mean, in addition to the mental patients that were there, they also had buildings that were dedicated solely as tuberculosis hospitals. And that was basically, you went there to die. So, just to think about the enormity of the population that went there and never left. It's just very heavy, especially now that it's so run down and falling apart. I got out of the car to, take a closer look at some of the buildings and stuff. And it's just a very heavy feeling. It's not someplace I would go after dark.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, like you said, it's creepy in the daytime, and those photos were taken in the daytime, and it sure is creepy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you look on YouTube, there are quite a few people that have gone in and taken video of going in the buildings, and some of them are at nighttime. I think there's a couple people that actually tested it out to see if they could stay there overnight without getting caught.
Were they successful?
They were.
Nice. Good for them.
Yeah. I don't advocate breaking into hazardous buildings that are full of lead paint and asbestos.
But if you do, don't get caught.
But if you do, don't get caught. Apparently I didn't realize that there's a huge population of urban explorers out there, and more power to them, because I think it's pretty neat what they do. I'm just not that much of a risk taker, but there's some at night stuff, and it's seeing the insides of these buildings and just the atmosphere of it, even in the daytime, the pictures that you see, like the way that lead paint deteriorates, that it comes off in ribbons and it just hangs. I don't know why. It creeps the shit out of me. So like pictures like that, if you're going to have a room that looks like that with peeling paint and hanging light fixtures, and you turn the lights out, no, I need to go home and I don't need to be there. I'm not a scaredy cat. Like, I used to live in Pennsylvania, and the house that I owned there, I discovered after my ex-husband moved out that it was haunted, and I was mostly okay with it, but not completely okay with it. And it's not really something I need to do again.
So, all right, we can't just gloss over that. You gotta tell us about this haunted house.
I was going to say, here we go sidetracking again. What happened
Yeah.
there?
I know that's my fault. I'm sorry. So
No.
yeah, so I had this house, and my ex-husband finally moved out while we were selling the house, and this was the first time I'd ever lived by myself. And so I would leave to go to work in the morning, and I would come home and lights would be on that were not on when I left. The bathroom sink would turn itself on. I had this stupid little nightlight thing that I kept in my bedroom, my guest room, that if you turned it on, the heat from the bulb would spin like this lampshade on it, and the lampshade would spin on its own without the light being on, no fans on in the room, no central air on, nothing like that. I was on the phone one night with Aaron, and I was sitting in my living room, and across the room from me was the door to go to the side yard, which had a glass pane in it. And I was looking at the glass pane while I was talking to Aaron, and this giant black, I don't know what, walked behind me and blocked out the light, like the reflection on the door. So something was moving behind me.
Whoa.
And I
man.
screamed so loud, I think I blew Aaron's ear out. And I found out, so I did an open house, and the following day I called my realtor to ask him how it went, and if anybody was interested in the house. And he's like, well, there was this one lady who came, and she was kind of disruptive. I'm like, well, who disrupts an open house? Like, why would you do that? And he's like, well, she was the original owner of the house. I'm like, all right, well, why was she there? Well, she's mad that the house is on the market. And I guess, I only owned it for like a year and a half before it went back up on the market. And apparently, so this lady was telling my realtor that she was really upset about it. So she had owned the house first, and then she sold it to her son. And the people I bought the house from had bought it from his estate. And they bought it from his estate because I didn't know this when I bought my house. He had killed himself in my house.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So he had committed suicide. He had shot himself in my basement. And I had no idea until his crazy mother decided to disrupt my open house.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Aren't they supposed to disclose that before you buy the house?
Only if you ask.
Really?
Yeah. Certain states, they only have to tell you if you ask them.
Wow.
Yep. So it's sneaky on their part.
Yeah. Damn.
Because I don't know that I would have been okay with buying the house. No, like I had set up an office in the basement, and I think I went down there once in the year and a half. I never felt comfortable in the basement in the house, and now I know why.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was not living alone, apparently.
It only showed itself after your ex-husband moved out?
Yeah, only after he left.
That's weird. It got you alone. It felt like it can pick on you or something.
Well, I mean, it was never threatening. I don't know if it was supposed to be comforting that I wasn't by myself, but it was not. It was upsetting. Like it was not. I didn't expect it at all, and I couldn't get out of there fast enough. Like no.
Yeah, I mean, seeing a looming shadow, that's something else.
Yeah, I mean the lights turning on, like all right, that's not a big deal other than it being a potential
those are just
electrical
cheeky
hazard.
ghost tricks.
Exactly. The shadow moving behind me, that was really, that scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone can fault you for that.
Yeah, I mean maybe he got the message that I was not okay with that part because he didn't do it again. But yeah, it was it was weird. So yeah, I try to stay away from places that are likely haunted at night. But there is part of me that if they turn the hospital building, if they turn it into a hotel, part of me is like, oh, I kind of want to stay there.
Yeah,
And I
definitely.
kind of don't.
Oh, I would be there 100%. I'd make the trip.
There's a certain level of a different type of stress when you deal with something like that, with stuff that's more than lights turning on and off and stuff, that type of thing. It gets stressful. It's weird.
Yeah, so long as they're not ghosts like the ones I made up, I mean, then it would be fine. But if they're that kind, no, I don't want to go. If they're going to try to hurt me, I'm out.
And you do hear a lot that even if a place is dormant, a lot of times when construction starts, it kind of wakens the activity.
Yep. Exactly.
So if there's anything there, if they convert that, it's got to awaken some sort of energy.
Yeah, if you go, make sure you bring your boo buddy so you can.
Yes. Don't leave home without it.
Exactly.
Now, when we talk to an author, I'm always hesitant to say, tell us about your book, because I don't want you to give your whole book away. But can you briefly tell us what your book's about so people can check it out?
I guess probably we should have done that like a while ago, no?
Yeah.
Probably would have been a good place to start, actually, now that you bring it up.
Well,
way to point out our flaws, Jen. You fucking asshole.
So it is the short version is a group of 20-something, because I never bothered to pinpoint their ages because I just didn't. A group of 7 friends decide that they are going to do an urban exploration of an abandoned mental hospital, just to, check it out and see what's there. So they decide to do that, and and spooky hijinks ensue. They go to check it out, and they find out that it is not as abandoned as they thought it was, is the short version. And now I remember the damn thing that I wanted to say before when you asked about like how much real stuff is in there, like with the wheelchair and the pool thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a series of photographs that were done for, I think it was for a book, that were photos taken from different mental hospitals. And one of them was taken from Hudson River, and it was actually a box that held patient toothbrushes that had all of their last names on it. And there was another one that was taken from another hospital, and I don't remember which one it was, but this photo really stuck with me, and I do use it in the book, and I actually use it in the like blurb on the back, that there was it was a room full of patient suitcases that were just left there.
Whoa.
That nobody ever bothered to clean out. They were all super old and falling apart, and some of them had opened up.
Did they still have the contents inside of it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. And it was
so the patients didn't even get to have the stuff they brought with them. They just locked it away in a room and was forgot. Yep. Oh man.
And it's a creepy photograph, and it just thinking about that, like, really I thought would work really well for it.
Yeah, you don't get more personal than that.
No.
As far as items go.
Here you go. So for like explanation of the book, I'll just read the part of the thing on the back, because I happen to have like 15 copies of it. The bottom part of it, it says, in Building 51, a group of 7 friends exploring the ruins discover a room full of old, battered suitcases. Why were they still there? Because their owners never left, and they're excited to have visitors.
Nice.
So, and I think I had that idea to put those things together, I think, before I even finished the book. Because that image just really stuck with me. Like, you have these poor people that were they're the very definition of vulnerable, you know, with probably all of their most prized possessions in these suitcases, and they get locked in this room and they never have them again. You know, if they got to leave or if they ended up dying in the hospital. So it's just, I don't know, it just creeped me out in a good way.
I always like seeing pictures of places like that and abandoned places to where it's kind of frozen in time like that.
Yeah.
I know I said, you know, why don't they clean that stuff up? But I kind of enjoy when they don't. Like just seeing old photos of like Chernobyl is like, holy shit, you know?
Oh yeah, that's the weirdest, man.
Yep.
And just seeing how nature takes it over.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's a website, and one of the pictures that I sent you guys, I actually got from that website called Abandoned Hudson Valley. There's a lot of stuff like that around here. There's actually farther down in New York. There's another mental hospital called Letchworth Village, and I think you can actually go on the grounds there without an issue. You know, and that's another one that was left just to rot. There's also another mental hospital that's probably, I think it's like 45 minutes from here, that was called Craig House. And F. Scott Fitzgerald's wife, Zelda, was actually a patient there at one point. But it's another one where it was this super fancy, elaborate hospital that when they closed it, they left everything, and it's rotting just like this one is. You know, there's a mansion that's probably 15 minutes away from Hudson River. It's in between FDR's home and the Vanderbilt mansion. It's like in the woods, and it was another one of these super fancy Gilded Age mansions that was just, I think the family died off, and it's falling apart. So apparently here in this part of New York, we like to have these fancy things and then just let them die. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's all about this. Well, especially except for the private owned mansions, but all the state run stuff that they just let go to shit.
Yeah. Yep. Once they're done with it, that's it. They're not going to do anything else. They're not going to clean it up. They're not going to spend another penny.
No, because if you repurpose it, then you reduce the budget for whatever is using the repurposed items. It's like all those fucking tanks in the middle of the desert that are just sitting there rotting because the military needed to spend the money.
Yep.
It's
$1,000 screwdriver and all that shit.
Yeah. Goddamn ridiculous. It better be the best goddamn screwdriver on the planet.
At that rate, it better be Doctor Who's sonic screwdriver.
Yeah. At the very least.
I'll take one of those for sure. Well, Jen, before we let you go, where can people find you and your book on the internet?
So you can find me on Amazon. You can find me on Barnes & Noble. And you can find me on Twitter. And what is my Twitter handle? I think it's jplace76. I'm very original with that stuff. You know, if you want to look for my books, it's Jennifer L. Place, because there is another author named Jennifer Place, but she has a memoir about being an alcoholic, and that is not me. I did not write that book.
Or did you? And you're like, you know what? Maybe if I put an L in my name, people won't realize.
That's a brilliant idea. You'd be like, no, that's not me. It's my name already, you dummy.
So support her previous career as a drunk memoir writer, and then buy her new book to read about scary stuff.
Which is called Building 51, by the way. I don't think we said the title of your book once.
So. We're professionals.
Man, I'm
Building 51.
I'm just as bad. This whole self-promotion thing does not come naturally to me at all. So I've failed on so many levels with that.
Well, thank you so much for spending the time with us. It's great to talk to you after tweeting at each other and back and forth for so long, and it's awesome to talk to you too, Aaron, back there.
You too, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like this was really awesome. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, anytime. You're welcome back anytime.
All right, I don't know what in God's name I will talk about, but I'm more than happy to do it anytime. You guys are the best.
Oh, thank you so much.
We'll that was my cat.
Yeah, I was gonna say we'll make some random background noise.
Yeah, no, just cat knocking over shit like they do. Evil fuckers. So we'll have you
mine are all
back
fat
on
and
once
sleeping.
you've sold the rights to the screenplay.
I gotta
And
finish it first.
yeah, so like by next year we'll talk about the success of the movie and you'll be all Hollywood and shit.
Oh yeah, I'll be doing some red.
Jennifer
carpet
Lawrence
for
will be
sure.
starring in it.
I don't know. I got to keep some creative control.
Yeah. That's a scary thing about trying to do something like that. I mean, you hear stories of people working their whole life on one thing, and Hollywood gets a hold of it, and they're like, "Yeah, thanks for the idea. See you later."
Yeah, thanks
Exactly.
for the idea. Now we're gonna bastardize it completely.
Yeah, and that's kind of why, like, I didn't, and I don't know how to do this piece of it at all. I wing it with writing books. Forget about trying to turn it into something else. But I didn't want to try and shop it around or send it to people to potentially be interested in doing a screenplay of it. Like when Mike mentioned it to me, I'm like, I should probably do that shit myself, and at least I can maintain a little bit more control. I mean, if anybody was interested in it, I'm going to find myself a really good entertainment lawyer. That's
Yeah.
that's for damn sure. But,
yeah, definitely.
I mean, I think there are pieces of it that are like vague enough in terms of like character description. I tried to keep it where it's not super specific, and you could kind of make a diverse cast to it if you wanted to. So, I mean, I'm not married to that, but in terms of like the guts of the story, yeah, I would be really pissed off if somebody ruined that. So, but you never know.
Always love reading about how Stephen King hates like most of the movies that are made of his books, or how he doesn't even remember writing half of them.
Well, he should hate most of the movies based on his books, because most of them are shit.
Yeah. There's Dreamcatcher. I love Dreamcatcher, even though that one specifically he said he hated, but I love that movie as cheesy as it is.
I couldn't finish that book. It seemed too silly for me. And I have total like 9-year-old potty humor, and it's why I get along with my kid as well as I do. But I couldn't get past the silliness of the shit weasels.
Yeah. Oh man.
It should be something that's right up my alley, because fart jokes are kind of my milieu, and I just I couldn't do it. The movie is fine. It does, because I never read the whole book, but I mean there are so many of his movies that just pissed me off. Yeah. And Mike, I thought about unfollowing you on Twitter when you told me that you've never read a Stephen King book, and I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah. It is weird because of how much I read that I've never read one.
It's a serious character flaw that I think you need to explore.
I see. These days, I don't even really read all that much fiction either. I made an exception for you, but typically I don't even read fiction anymore.
You're too highbrow for fiction.
And it's not even that. It's just like there's so much information out there that I want to cram in this stupid head of mine that like I feel like I'm wasting my time with fiction because I'm not learning anything.
Right.
Because it's a made up story. I'm like, no, I need stuff. Just give me stuff to put in my brain.
So I can remember none of it when I record the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
I am determined to find a way to put into the screenplay something about a barn owl.
Oh, yes. Even if they just like walk onto site and get attacked by a barn owl or something.
I'm thinking I might do that.
It's gonna be a movie, so you got to throw in the jump scare. And what better way to do a jump scare than with a barn owl?
Yeah, what a creepy ass barn owl.
There is a jump scare, and I think I'm going to it is a bird. I think I'm going to change it to a barn owl.
Yes.
Aaron told me if I do a sequel, I have to put evil time traveling Barack Obama in there somehow.
Yeah,
that's going to be a little hard.
He was the one that founded the entire thing. The entire site he broke ground personally.
And I haven't quite figured out yet how I'm going to do that, but that might be a good plan. He can be the founder.
The ghosts aren't even ghosts. They're like they're interdimensional beings that he pulls through. But they have to have a body shape, so he gives them the body shape of former patients.
It writes itself.
It does. And there's an underground lair with reptilian eggs.
Oh my God, I should be taking notes right now.
And they drink the blood of all the victims of the quote unquote ghosts.
Oh, there could be like drains in the floor, and they all empty all the blood out into the basement.
There you go.
It does write itself. This is perfect.
See?
Where were you when I was writing this to begin with?
We're right here. We just weren't tapped for ideas.
Well, now you are. Now. I have my in the screenplay software that I got. I have the little like sticky note on the side about having to write about Captain Boner.
Yeah.
So that'll make its way in there somewhere, I promise.
Victory. Victory for the Whatcast.
Exactly. Your legacy will live on forever.
Nice.
And only like 3 people will realize it.
Well, whatever. That's fine.
But we'll know, damn it.
Exactly.
We'll know.
So long as you know. That's all that's important.
Well, thank you again, Jen. Have a good night. And thanks again for being so generous with your time and talking with us.
No, thank you guys. Have a good night.
Thank you for listening to the Whatcast. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, iTunes, and YouTube. Enjoy the podcast. Get yourself a Whatcast t-shirt or a sticker pack. Who was that dude on that one episode? Try the links in Homie's page. All this and more can be found at www.thewhatcasters.com. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.